Arc Raiders has been out for a few months now, and it already has millions of players. And let me tell you, this game made a breakthrough not only in the gaming industry, but also in terms of a technical side of things. Today, we're gonna look at how the game works under the hood. We will analyze a comprehensive 6-layered anti-cheat and how the game utilizes a machine learning in order to detect the cheaters. We will also look at optimizations, game-specific logic, matchmaking behavior, remains of the previous game, the finals in the code of Arc Raiders, as well as some mentions of future updates and even things like victim compensation system. There are tons of interesting things in this game, but before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And with that being said, my fellow raiders, let's dive in. Okay, first things first. The game's internal codename is Pioneer and not an Arc Raiders. I believe that's how the game meant to be named at first, and throughout the video you will see that it's referenced like that literally everywhere in the code. What makes it kinda hard to analyze is the fact that Embark Studios used a heavily modified version of Unreal Engine 5, pretty much the same way they did with the finals. Thus, I cannot straight up use F-model or U-model in order to extract packages of the Arc Raiders. Even though we can kinda get an AES key, I guess Arc Raiders are now using a more complex solution with memory runtime re-encryption, which makes things a lot harder to dump and reverse. However, some modders managed to extract meshes and things like that previously, specifically with the build dated July 2023. Yep, it's kinda old, but once again the same story happened with the finals. For obvious reasons, I cannot provide links, but let me tell you, a few weeks ago some guy managed to extract 3D models, images and things like that from the current build of Arc Raiders. And he even managed to make some ready to 3D print STL models, so you can now have a Bastion or a Lippe sitting on your desktop real life. And that's pretty much the current state of the game. Things are highly encrypted and even data miners are struggling to get the data. Even websites like ArcTracker or similar ones are using in-game screenshots instead of an actual image files. But you know what? That's where things get interesting, because all that security measures are meant to protect the game from the cheaters in the first place. You see, Embark Studios managed to develop a comprehensive behavioral anti-cheat stack. It contains things like Cerebro, Theia, Easy Anti-cheat, etc. All of those shapes a multi-layer protection system that is genuinely well engineered. Not gonna lie, that's the first time I see such a complex approach. And it's even better because Arc Raiders actually comes with an AI models that runs locally on your computer while you play the game. Now that's huge if you ask me. Funny thing, official Arc Raiders support page also mentions Denuvo. However, I didn't find anything related to Denuvo in the code, so that must be a duplicate of support page from the finals. Okay, now let's tear down the anti-cheat of Arc Raiders and try to figure out how it actually works. And just like I said, it's multi-layered, and the very first layer is simple one. That's the easy anti-cheat integration through Epic Online Services. Nothing special or interesting here, and the execution flow is also quite straightforward. Now the second protection layer is an interesting one though. It utilizes a Cerebro Anybrain's behavioral ML system that analyzes player input patterns. And just like you would expect, it monitors things like mouse movement vectors, aim patterns, input timing, movement prediction, and things like that. In Arc Raiders, players been reporting getting banned for an unrealistic aim. Also, there was cases when, for example, shooting too fast with the kettle, you would get throttled because the game thought you were using macros, even when you didn't. Thus, Embark Studios nerfed it from 650 to 400 RPM in January this year, specifically because of macro abuse and lots of false positive detections. Well, Cerebro is the one to blame, because it's responsible for all of those. Although it's not that bad when it comes to detecting an actual cheaters that uses aimbots that snaps onto the target. Cerebro will flag those immediately, resulting in a permanent ban. Of course, that's not a 100% working solution, because things like aim smoothing, overshooting and microcorrections will make it harder to detect. There are also special algorithms that meant to simulate a human mouse movement. One of them is called wind mouse, and probably Cerebro will not detect it. I mean, in theory it could, but I guess it would lead to a number of false positive detections, where players without cheats would also get banned. And the next protection layer is an ONNX machine learning runtime. It contains functions to work with NLP, or the natural language processing, image processing operations, NMS code, which stands for non-maximum suppression, and all of those combined with object detection functions. However, it's kinda hard to tell how and where Embark actually use it, but I can hardly imagine that those ML models are client-side only. My guess is that they form half of the layer client-side and then transfer that to the server that forms the second part and then makes the inference. That would also explain the lack of models locally. Or maybe I'm just wrong and the models are actually well encrypted somewhere in the game files. Anyways, things like NMS and object detections means they analyze the images, probably for the visual wallhack detection. In theory, they can also see when a player looks straight through the walls in order to understand if they can see the enemy or not. And I've worked with similar functions back when I made my AimLab OpenCV bot, so I would say it's more than possible. As for the ban and punishment system, Arcadis has quite a few functions. There are functions named permanent ban message, temporary suspension message, cheater compensation message, etc. But one of them stands out. It's called Send Player Behavior Report. That's an automated report that is made after analyzing multiple player metrics. And if you played the game, you know that sometimes you will receive back most of your lost items when a cheater knocked you down. This mechanic in Arcadis is called victim compensation, and as far as I know, it's a new mechanic in extraction shooters genre. And probably there could be a way to abuse this system in order to retrieve your items back every time, but that's just a theory. Okay, at this point you also might be interested in the actual detection thresholds. When exactly AI detects you as a cheater? Well, there are 8 metrics with about 32 thresholds that is used to make a decision in the code, and they all been checked against 0. The reason is because the actual thresholds are encoded in multiplication constants and scaled by your movement velocity at the runtime. It means that the detection becomes more lenient the faster you move, and vice versa. Slower movement means tight detection. And it's quite a brilliant idea, actually. By the way, here are an approximate reconstructed detection algorithm. It contains things like aimbot detection, macro and bot detection, statistical analysis, and recoil compensation. And if you're interested in a more humanly represented data, here you go. Take mean human reaction as an example. The threshold here is 150 milliseconds, and if a player reacts faster, then the function considers he uses a trigger bot. Prediction threshold for aimbot consists of 2 main metrics. If the accuracy is more than 95% and snap threshold detects a movement faster than 90 degrees in a 16 milliseconds window, then the function considers you are probably using an aimbot. To put it simple, currently mostly the AI decides whether you're a cheater or not. And guess what? It could be easily bypassed by the cheaters because they know how it works. So even such a complex multi-layer protection system cannot fully prevent cheaters to play the game. And probably the least interesting finding here is that right after start SDK function call, there are a call of a function set background mode true. It means that the game is watching for your input devices even when you alt tab. Though as far as I can tell, it only monitors for the input devices such as a controller and keyboard and not an audio from your microphone. Oh, and we can also easily confirm that Arcadis has a hardware ban system, as it uses TPM20 in the code in order to block the players by their hardware ID. Now for the game-specific things, there are also some interesting findings. For example, there is a system called GAS, Gameplay Ability System. Funny thing, one of the states is called DBNO, which stands for down but not out. Of course, that's the knocked out state of the player. As for the matchmaking, sadly I haven't found anything in the code, but I guess that's because everything related to matchmaking lives on the server. However, Embark Studios CEO confirmed that the game silently tracks PvP behavior and matches aggressive players together. What's also interesting is that design director of Embark called aggression-based a bit of misnomer. It means that it does not operate solely on player aggression, and even things like looting a knocked out player may increase your aggression score. In the game code, there are also structures named weapon charm, weapon skin, and weapon sticker. While it can be a leftover from the finals, a previous game of Embark Studios, it also could be left in the code on purpose in order to add it to the game at some point. Anyways, that's everything I have gathered so far. I also want to thank Helski, if I pronounce it right, the moderator of Unknown Cheats forum, as his post on Arcrader's reversal and Cerebro analysis helped me a lot to better understand how the code of the game works, but for obvious reasons I cannot provide any links in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video and now you know a bit more about how Arcrader's works, how anticheat works, and how the game utilizes AI. For me it was kinda fun and interesting just because I like to investigate how the shit works under the hood. Once again, make sure to subscribe to my channel and leave a like. I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and Raider, don't shoot, and good luck on the top side.